I'm Mincho Koralski, the Executive Director of the Agency for People with Disabilities. I have the pleasure to moderate this panel. Allow me that we get started with Mrs. Elena Bodner, who is an associated manager with the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. I'm kindly asking all our speakers to be aware of the time limit, 5 up to 7 minutes, so that the participants in the audience can have the opportunity to ask their question.
Thank you very much. This is actually my first time attending the International Fair, so I'm very honored to be the first speaker on the panel today as well. So I am here with the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. And for those of you who don't know us, we're a multilateral development bank, and we mainly work with the private sector. So we're somewhat new to thinking about working with social enterprises. And in the last panel, speakers already shared a lot about social enterprises that we agree with. One of them is that, of course, social enterprises have a very important social impact, but at the same time, they can also be economically sustainable. So we at the EBRD are currently thinking about how we can support social enterprises in Bulgaria to become more economically sustainable. And we think that we can do this by linking them closer with the private sector. So how do we want to do this? So one of the key challenges that we see is that stakeholders in the government, in the private sector, they don't really understand social enterprises very well. So basically, that limits the options that social entrepreneurs have in accessing finance. So what we want to get started with is to look at how we can address this lack of awareness. So for instance, on the government side, we would very much like to get started with policy dialogue to help address the legal and regulatory barriers to accessing finance. And on engaging the private sector, well, we would like to help the private sector to better understand how they can work with social enterprises, how they can manage the risk in loans, for instance, and also how they can integrate social enterprises in their value chains, and perhaps also provide some mentoring. After all, the private sector, they know how to have a sustainable business, so why not take this expertise and help a social enterprise with that? And last but not least, we also want to help foster a sustainable ecosystem. An event, for instance, like today's, where we bring different stakeholders together, people from the government, people from the private sector, to talk about how, as an ecosystem, we can work better together. So I very much look forward to hearing your ideas today. And yes, I look forward to your questions as well.
Thank you, Lena. Do you have questions to the representative of the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development? From what I can see, there are no questions. Once again, thank you to Lena. Now I would like to give the floor to Sebastita Grigorescu, who is the president of industrial cooperatives in Romania. Good afternoon. I will be addressing directly this topic. In Romania, after quite a few years, we already have a legal framework regarding social enterprises. It is a specific law. Tobeshin.
Au moins chez nous en Roumanie, après beaucoup d'années, nous avons un cadre nécessaire au fonctionnement de l'économie sociale. Il s'agit de la loi numéro 219 de 2015.
Într-o secțiune distinctă a legii, cea de-a treia, sunt prezentate și anumite aspecte privind finanțarea întreprinderilor sociale de inserție și mecanismele de sprijinire și încurajare a acestora, sursele indicate fiind unele generice, respectiv publice, private, naționale ori internaționale.
Dans une section distincte de la loi, la troisième, sont présentés quelques aspects concernant le financement des entreprises sociales d'insertion et les mécanismes de support et d'encouragement de ceux-ci, les sources indiquées étant génériques, public, privé, national ou international.
Se mai vorbește în lege de o serie de facilități din partea autorităților administrației publice locale, între care atribuirea unor spații și sau terenuri aflate în domeniul public al unităților administrativ-teritoriale în scopul desfășurării unor activități sociale, sprijin în promovarea produselor și serviciilor și în identificarea unor piețe de desfacere, sprijin în promovarea turismului și activităților conexe, scutiri de taxe și impozite.
On parle également dans la loi d'une série de facilités de la part des autorités de l'administration publique locale, dont, je vous dis, l'attribution des espaces et ou des terrains qui sont dans le domaine public des unités administratives territoriales dans le but de dérouler des activités sociales. Support en ce qui concerne la promotion des produits et des services et en
in order to implement these legal provisions, the local authorities can approve the respective amounts in their budgets. However, they don't always have the financial resources for that purpose. At least in theory, support measures can be used. These are measures funded by the states.
Bénéficier de mesures de support de nature de l'aide d'État, mais aussi des programmes plus ou moins visibles ou efficients.
Să luăm de exemplu sprijinul în promovarea
As regards service provision, a forum similar to this one is indeedly particularly helpful. Such a forum represents the measures taken in order to allow people to offer their goods and others buy these goods. However, what should we do in order to support the development of an online platform which will be functioning after the closing of the fair?
Продължават напред. Какво следва нататък?
Such a European project has been implemented with the support of the relevant authorities. I think that further such general projects can be particularly helpful.
Pourrait nous donner des effets bénéfiques.
Aș mai menționa că în România, potrivit legii economiei sociale, luna mai a fiecărui an este denumită Luna Promovării Economiei Sociale, fiind dedicată organizării diferitelor evenimente sau acțiuni de mediatizare a economiei sociale.
J'aimerais mentionner qu'en Roumanie, selon à la loi de l'économie sociale, le mois du...
I would like that, similar to the Romanian law, the social activity law should define a specific day in the year, a day dedicated to promoting social and solidarity economy. In addition to the classical financing methods such as bank credits or loans from special purpose vehicles, in order for the profit to reflect the social dimensions of the activity and ensure financing from European funds for that purpose. The social economy is a major pillar with respect to diminishing disparities among the member states as well as among regions. A good example showing the absorption of European funds with regards to social entrepreneurship is a bridge between microcrediting for the most vulnerable ones and, on the other hand, social entrepreneurship. The program funded under the Human Capital OP is targeting the least developed regions. These are regions that wish to set up social undertakings. The maximum funding is €100,000 per program. This involves monitoring and technical assistance. A challenge that we're still facing in Romania relates to the fact that social entrepreneurs have to sum up their courage and apply for funding under European programs. However, they also need to have their own resources supported.
Punerea în aplicare a pilonului social. Prin acesta, în esență, statele membre vor trebui să aloce cel puțin un sfert din resursele Fondului Social European pentru măsuri de combatere a excluziunii sociale. Concentrarea resurselor vizează investițiile în oameni în 3 domenii tematice principale: ocuparea forței de muncă, educația și incluziunea socială. Se recunoaște rolul partenerilor sociali și al societății civile în realizarea politicilor de ocupare a forței de muncă.
Dans le cadre du sommet qui se déroulera en Roumanie, à Sibiu,
The high-level meeting that will take place in Romania will address the new financial framework of the European Union for the period 2017-2021. We will also be addressing the European Social Fund. This is the most appropriate program to be used in relation to the social rights pillar. The member states will have to allocate 1/4 of the European Social Fund in order to combat social exclusion. Concentration of resources implies making investments in human beings. Employment, the capacity, the potential of the workforce, the involvement of the civil society in developing and implementing employment policies. The level of the EU member states will therefore have the opportunity to put in practice a number of actions, in particular new social plans, putting in place new plans as well as upgrading the now existing ones. Financing opportunities which will be beneficial to social enterprises as well as to those providing support to social enterprises. This implies diversification of financing sources for social enterprises. As regards education in entrepreneurship, what we need is a different approach to financing. A startup could be possible due to own capital. Or in relation to appropriate curricula at the university level. Thank you for this presentation. I think that The activities of the European Union are particularly important. However, an issue raised by the speaker is equally important, namely ensuring co-financing when you apply for funding under EU programs. We know that this is indeed a serious challenge for the countries in our region. I would like to now give the floor to Mr. Vasil Pev, the Chief Secretary of the Executive Agency for the Promotion of SMEs. I kindly ask you to abide by the time limit of 5 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Koralski. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Executive Agency for SME Promotion, I want to thank the organizers of this highly prestigious 8th European Forum on Social Entrepreneurship. I will do my best to abide by the 5 minutes allocated. Let me start by presenting some promotion measures and initiatives for SMEs. SMEs account for 99% of the total number of operational companies. 75% of the work-age workforce is employed in SMEs. These SMEs include also social undertakings. The main measures and support provided by our agency, this is the National Innovative Fund. This is a form of supporting SMEs by means of innovative technologies. Let me quote an example. All the participants in this fair are producers. A part of the producers had innovative ideas that have been implemented. We had a demo of an innovative equipment in the very beginning of this forum. It is an innovative equipment that can receive funding in the amount of a minimum of 500,000 Bulgarian leva. I don't know if you are informed about the National Innovation Fund. This fund will be launching its 9th session in April. Can visit our website and read about the priorities related to the 9th session. We are going to organize an event. A team of the agency will be presenting details regarding this 9th edition, so that you would be familiar with the new measures in the National Innovation Fund. Participation is free of charge. As regards support, it all depends on you. If there are companies that have innovative products that can be marketed, I think that this competition is an appropriate source for you. The Executive Agency for SME Promotion is a governmental organization which implements the state policy for supporting enterprises in terms of competitiveness. There are other ways of providing support in addition to what I have mentioned. We have been organizing business fora, fairs. We have rented various facilities. I call upon all of you to access our website or give us a call. We will provide you with any possible support. I mean not only cash support, but also other kinds of support. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Pev. You gave the answer to a question that I've been wondering for a long time. these developments that you have seen and that are our agency has limited opportunities, so it would be nice if all this information about the Innovation Fund is provided so that it can be uploaded on the website of our agency, so that people interested in such developments might use it in order to have their awareness raised, and we would also know who to refer those people to. I promise you, Mr. Kurowski, that I will share this experience, and in a month a new session will start. So there will be a
Аз се ангажирам да ви предоставя тази информация, да я популяризирате и публикувате във вашия сайт.
Благодаря ви много.
Благодаря.
Радвам се, че нашата среща, освен теоретични, има и практически резултати, от които се нуждаят най-много хората, които тук се занимават с социална икономика. Но нека да видим и визията на Европейския икономически и социален комитет, представена от Мари Заволска. Заповядайте, госпожо Заволска.
Mrs. Zavolska, you have the floor.
Добър ден. And please use your headphones because I'll switch to English. So firstly, I would like to really thank you for inviting me. It's not my first fair, but I always enjoy it because it's nice to be with friends with common interest and common topics to share. So thank you very much. And what I would like to say, I want to congratulate you because I see improvements in the organization and also in visiting the fair during the year. So thank you very much, and really it's a very, very good event, and I'm happy that I'm back. What I would like to say that I'm part of the delegation of European Economic and Social Committee. It was already mentioned by my colleague Ariane. It's kind of bridge between citizens and European institutions. We are 350 from still 28 member states and working in 3 groups. I'm from group 1, employers. There is also group workers, and third group, diversity Europe. All my colleagues who are here are from third group, so it's Giuseppe Guerini, Ariane Roder, and Deliana Slavova. We are preparing opinions for European institutions, but also on request of presidencies. And one of our opinion on request of presidency was on financial ecosystem for social economy enterprises. It was in 2015 during Luxembourg presidency, where Luxembourg requested this exploratory opinion, which wanted to explore the concept of financial ecosystem from the perspective of social enterprises. Limited access to finance is a barrier to the growth and to the development of the social economy, and it is really very difficult to deal with this. Sometimes the sector is very underdeveloped in many member states because the social economy enterprises had no access to finances. What is important that the existing financing frameworks does not correspond to the reality of social economy enterprises and their requirements. Key issue is that social economy business models are not sufficiently known and understood. They are not fully recognized the specificities of these models as democratic governance or shared ownership or shared decision making. So it makes it difficult for social economy enterprises to access mainstream finance. Also, the social economic enterprises are confronted with the issue of fact that financial markets logic is not designed to support of development of social economy enterprises. They, as was already mentioned by Ariane, they are not dealing with the question of social mission of social economy enterprises. And what, in our opinion, is stressed that investment in social economy enterprises is in fact not a cost, but an investment into the future, which contributes to increased employment rates and to strengthen the competitiveness and overall economic contribution of member states in a long run. We need mixed revenue stream for financing of social economy enterprises, and what's important, it was also mentioned by Ariane, is the financial support for life cycle, for all life cycle of enterprise. So grants and funded pilot scheme often find in this second phase due to the lack of appropriate instruments enabling social economy enterprises to scale up and to be sustainable. Specific instruments should be for all development stages, or for pre-startup, startup, for consolidation and growth, and they should meet specific needs of each stage. What also is needed is specific general guidance and business development support. There will be possibility to speak much more, but I know that I'm under the time pressure, so you can find all this and maybe more, much more in this opinion. Financová ekosystéma sociální предприятия, you can find it in the main building together with the other opinions. I'm ready to answer all your questions if you have some. And thank you very much. Благодаря.
Благодаря много. Въпроси към...
Any questions to Mrs. Volska?
Не виждам.
I can't see any questions. Yeah, I understand that it's difficult to teach mainstream financial institutions to finance social economy enterprises, taking into account its specificity, such as management governance structure, such as a longer term of achieving success, as well as the upscale and growth at different stages. But that should be a responsibility of an obligation of the state, because after all, in the context of the market economy, we need to have drivers, and these drivers, when it comes to innovative economies, should be state-based drivers. But perhaps this is an issue that we might further discuss later on. Now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Suyong from the Economic Federation of Social Cooperatives, the city of Busan, the Republic of Korea.
안녕하십니까.
Здравейте всички.
대한민국
Hello to everybody. My name is Soyoung. I come from Southern Korea. I'm particularly happy to have been invited to take part in this forum and share the experience of Southern Korea, in particular my city, in the area of social entrepreneurship. I'm going to present some of our activities. I'm going to present our organization in the Korean language, and I apologize for this. I will briefly be presenting the activities we have supported. Back in the 90s, we witnessed an upsurge in the development of social policies in the Republic of Korea. A number of laws were passed for the purpose of promoting social activities. That was the beginning of social policies. This set the beginning and the basis of social policy. At present, we have over 1,000 cooperatives involved in social activities in the Republic of Korea. A number of laws were passed after the beginning, which started in the 80s.
육성 정책이 시작이 되었습니다.
These laws laid the foundation of the links among various cooperatives and organizations which facilitated social activities development. Over 10,000 organizations take part in this social network. Southern Korea has a relatively young and brief history in social policy. We are indeed a particularly developed state in economic terms. This rapid economic development, however, was accompanied by a number of social issues. I'm referring to a variety of problems related to capitalist development. The development growth rate was indeed very high. We have had a new government since last year. This new government has a new social activity policy. I will tell you some more details about this new policy. As I pointed out in the beginning, I represent the Association of Social Cooperatives in the city of Busan, which is the second largest city following Seoul in southern Korea. I'm now representing several organizations which have a variety of activities. I can sum up our aims along 3 lines. Firstly, healthcare for our population, any health-related issues in our city. In addition, we are also involved in promoting employment, creating jobs for socially disadvantaged people who don't have access to the labor market. We develop various activities for such persons, such as working on agricultural farms, for example.
사회적 약자를 위한 그들의 생활 삶을 보장할 수 있는 여러 사업들을 벌이고 있습니다.
The second main line of activity, services which the government has not sufficiently developed. These are social services. We have contacts with various universities, academic communities, or production facilities. Thus, we supplement the economic strategy of the Korean government. The third line of our activity, providing support and assistance to local communities. It is support related to employment and inclusion, integration in the labor market. The third goal that we have is particularly relevant and important to the local labor market and the local communities, namely ensuring jobs at the local level.
발족이 되었습니다.
In 2015, we received a license from the Korean government for this particular activity, namely promoting employment. We can indeed be proud of a number of products whose manufacturing we have initiated. We have thus involved a number of social activities in a network. This comes as a result of several years of working in the social area. As I've already pointed out, our history in the development of Korean social policy is not a long one. We cannot say that we're proud of traditions similar to the ones you have in Europe. One of the reasons why I'm here is establishing contacts with all of you. This is important so that we can start building up a global network, kind of a network involving Asian and European experience. We're going to share our experience. I also look forward to learning a lot from you, as you have a by far longer experience in the social area. Once again, thank you to all of you. I'm very happy to be with you, and I look forward to spending these 2 days with you. Thank you.
Аз искам
I would like to thank Mr. Suyong for his presentation. He mentioned something at the beginning about capitalism. But I think that capitalism has also been developing. It seems that it is no longer an activity involving socially insensitive people. There are many socially sensitive people who are capitalists and who actually started social economy by shattering the myth that capitalism only involves added value. The social economy has shown that it is a fast growing share of the overall, not just the European economy, because it combines what seems to be things with few features in common, such as profit and altruism. But combining those two aspects that seem to be not possible to be combined actually leads to a concept, a combination that is really successful and sustainable, and it shows that each system, each country can do it, can make decisions so that the social economy will not be just an added environment to the economic environment, but it can become gradually a leading economic environment, because it is true that no matter how hard we think that it's all about profit and profit making, obviously mankind will be heading towards fewer people being involved in the production of material goods, and the social element of the economy should be strengthened so that these goods can be distributed somehow among the others. We'll continue. Now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Iskran Kulev. He is Chief CEO of Kindling SMEs, the UK. I would like to say that Mr. Kulev is on top 10 of digital managers in the UK. That is why we would like to welcome him as a successful Bulgarian countryman.
Represent the UK company, although our company does have an office in Bulgaria, which we're very proud of, and one of our founders is based here. This particular topic of social entrepreneurship financing is of very big interest to me for two reasons. Firstly, I wear a hat of a social entrepreneur, since our platform represents the non-profit and social enterprise sector in the digital space. And I have been...
Господин Колев, имам някакъв проблем с връзката.
Should I try this one? Yeah, that's a bit stronger. Is that received?
Да, благодаря.
Thank you. So my first hat is of a social entrepreneur, started into the UK and EU with a global market, a digital platform for non-profit organizations, for financing non-profit organizations. And then we also look into improving the social entrepreneurship financing of those organizations. So taking my first hat, I have experienced everything we discussed today. Issues with finding finance in social enterprises are very ripe. Out of 98 venture capitalists in London, which is one of the capitals for venture capital in the world, we have only 4 of them who consider investing in social entrepreneurship. And this tells you where the world is more or less and where Europe is. We have fought a lot for angel investment, and there are a lot of philanthropists who are looking for such type of investments, and also fought for European funding and continue fighting for that. The other side of what we do is extremely interesting to this topic, is because what KindLink does is basically build a digital platform which opens the non-profit and social enterprise sector to the world. We have done our research when we started 3 years ago and looked at the sector of the non-profit sector. And we discovered the biggest blocker for donors making donations and investments in the sector is the transparency of that sector and the efficiency of how that sector is run. The transparency relates to the fact that when you give your money to a charity or a social enterprise, you're not certain how they're spent. So what KindLink undertook at the very beginning is to build a digital platform which enables the non-profit organizations to present their work to the world, to enable them to record their data and their updates, how they execute their projects, and present that to their donors. So we aim to remove that blocker for donors to make contributions to charities and social enterprises. And I have to say we're quite successful to date. We have around 1,000 charities across the world, European, UK, US, as well as Canadian nonprofits, utilizing our system to run their operations, fundraise and look for funding, as well as communicate their impact to the world. Now, we as a social enterprise left this model to be completely non-profit for us. We do not make money out of this. In fact, we have our own registered charity which manages this side of the business. And we moved into a different model of making money, and namely corporate social responsibility. That is a very interesting topic for this entire forum, but also for a panel tomorrow as well. This topic of how businesses support social enterprises and non-profit organizations is a prime example of how the sector can move forward. Effectively, we see a great synergy between what non-profits and social enterprises are done, being supported by businesses in an effective and transparent way, and then the businesses also reaps the benefits of this. And I will only mention a few of them. So one of the biggest drives for an employee to participate and to be engaged with their employer is for the employer to be involved in corporate social responsibility and support non-profits. It increases dramatically engagement and saves money on having to rehire people. It is also one of the best marketing tools to connect with your customers and increase your market share as a business. And of course, as part of these corporate contributions in the business. So a little bit about our story. We started roughly 3 years ago. We're a 10-people team. We are hosted by the Royal Bank of Scotland in their accelerator and are growing our business product proposition at this very moment. The idea of the proposition is that it manages everything within a business when it comes to volunteering, fundraising, sustainability, sustainable development goals recording as well. So everything that a corporate does for the community, all the environment can be recorded, showcased and managed within one digital system. And the system directly tackles the issue of financing, since it removes the biggest barrier of social enterprises and non-profits of receiving funding from private sector, individual donors, as well as corporate donors. Thank you so much. I'll stop here because I'm aware of time.
Благодаря, господин.
Thank you, Mr. Kolev. Any questions? I have a question. Roman Voinsky from Association Villa Pautalia. Right now we are discussing modern approaches to financing of social enterprises. So let's go back to this topic. Last week, I attended a project in Belgium. It is carried out together with a Belgian partner. It has to do with modern approaches for financing of social entrepreneurship. There was a representative of the NGO VDAP from Belgium, and he presented an interesting interesting model of financing. This is the social impact bond. Well, what this is all about is the following. The government of Belgium sets itself social goals, but it attracts investors to invest in such enterprises after they measure the results from social enterprises. Then the state actually finances the investment that has been made by the investor. This is what the model is about. I have the question to most representatives here, for instance, to Mrs. Bodnar from the European Bank, or to Mrs. Volska, whether the European Economic and Social Committee uses this approach to financing social enterprises, because I learned that it is really popular in Belgium. I remember what was said in the previous panel, that it was difficult to measure the social impact of a social enterprise. So I have this question to most of you, to Mrs. Bodnar and to Mrs. Volska, whether you use it at the European Bank, as well as at the European Economic and Social Committee. The colleague from the Republic of Korea, this is also a question for you. I didn't learn how they finance social enterprises in Korea. Social impact bonds were actually developed for the first time in England, so perhaps you know something that might be of interest. I didn't learn a lot about the modern forms of financing social enterprises. Perhaps I missed it somehow.
Мисля, че въпросът е правилно зададен.
I think that this is a correctly raised issue. However, I think that we need a third panel for all these answers. However, I will allow the speakers to give their answers. I'm the last speaker on the agenda for this panel, but you have the floor to answer.
So yes, social impact bonds are very, very important. We recognize that they are. The EBRD has actually designed a social impact bond together with the World Bank in West Bank and Gaza last autumn. So if you're interested, I'm happy to give you more detail about that later on.
I would also actually like to address the last question, which I think is very important, maybe even to summarize the roundtable and our opinions. Where the social enterprise investments stand. Where we have found as a social enterprise in the UK, investment is angel investment, is ripe for social enterprises, since we have a lot of philanthropists looking for such investments. We do have angel groups focused specifically on social enterprise investment. Then we can move to venture capitals, so the next level of finance, which is around level A and B, and that is still we have maybe 2-3% of venture capitals still investing and looking for that. It's much better positioned in the US, where this is they're absolutely specialized houses doing that. Private equity usually invests in companies who do not affect environment, who are very careful about their social change and impact. And of course, then we have government and the rest of the funding where you apply for a specific program. It's still being developed in Europe, I would say, and it still very much needs development from our perspective.
Благодаря.
Thank you. So I'm the last speaker on this panel. I will try and focus on financing, as this is the topic of our panel. The Agency for People with Disability is most probably the first institution actively involved in providing support to enterprises which recognize themselves as social enterprises. Of course, most of these enterprises do not fully comply with the classical requirements, in particular in respect of ownership and management. except for cooperatives. I'm excluding cooperatives, in particular cooperatives for people with disabilities. The social economy is economy at the end of the day. This is not a social activity, just you get some money and you spend the money on particular activities. The social economy is an economy which should be generating a value added. This value added, however, should be used for addressing specific social issues. Therefore, the support to social undertakings is very important. However, on the other hand, it is equally important that those involved in the social economy should be well aware of how their enterprise will be functioning in order to achieve a social effect. Let me quote an example with the programs that we finance. These are programs for startup funding. The startup capital is relatively small, 10,000 euro. This is grant funding. The performance, the success achieved by these businesses, which we monitor in the course of 3 years, stands at 95%. This clearly shows that well-motivated people approach this tool. In addition to the 10,000 euro received from us, they also have some facilities and know-how. I'm repeating that the success rate stands at 95%. 95% of these startups maintain their economic viability. Hence, it is very important to highlight the fact that we finance specialized enterprises for people with disabilities. I will link this with what I've just said. We have startups with an independent economic activity. Gradually, they became a small enterprise. Now they have grown to become a medium-sized enterprise. Moreover, they have even grown to become a kind of a cluster developing other enterprises. This has been achieved by a person who regrettably is unable to attend this forum and tell you about his experience. He's now attending the other parallel panel. Why am I quoting this example? Well, when you table your idea, and when your idea is about manufacturing an environmentally friendly product, a product with a very clear focus on a specific target group, you can enjoy a very high demand under such circumstances. Therefore, social entrepreneurship is not an activity for people who lack ideas. Judging by the experience of other countries, and given the fact that there are social international corporations with a turnover of billions of dollars, this proves that a startup can be supported by the state, but this is only the initial phase. Later on, it should be developing on its own. Could be gas stations. Australia has such experience with gas stations as social enterprises. And the people employed are people who have served custodial sentences or people who are socially disadvantaged. But the startup is a hotel or a gas station. This is only the starting point. However, they have developed to become operational on several continents nowadays. Speaking about social activities, we should bear in mind that there is a very specific driving force. The driving force in the social economy is the highly motivated workforce. As I have a lot of experience in working with people with disabilities, I can tell you that these people are particularly motivated to have a job. They very rarely change their employer. They highly value the chance they have. If we are to speak about corporate loyalty, not corporate responsibility, it is these people that have a very high level of corporate loyalty. This explains why social economy is that successful. Therefore, it is very important for states to put in place a kind of a form of financing social economy. The UK, for example, has for funds, or even we don't even know what the number of the total number of financing institutions is. However, this fact proves that we can not only rely on the experience of Mr. Kolev and the structure for which he works, namely attracting private donors. We cannot only rely, for example, on something similar to the Korean experience, providing support to vulnerable groups and enabling them to access the labor market. The problem is by far more complicated. It should be properly analyzed. It is high time for it to break out of the box in which it has so far been, namely the NGO sector. I think that this issue should translate into a serious state policy. We have the Ministry of Economy, and this should not only be the Ministry of Economy, but also the Ministry of Economy and Social Economy, if I can use this expression. Yes, we have a lot of experience in respect of the traditional economy. However, we have to help this emerging new type of economy, namely the social economy. We have to facilitate its development by means of regulation. And last but not least, we have a very important role, namely raising awareness of the fact that people with disabilities, people who are over the board, these are not second-hand people. These are individuals who have an enormous potential. I'm witnessing this potential on a daily basis. The fact that a person has been in prison or has become part of a socially disadvantaged group, this is not a life condemnation. We have to provide these people with real opportunities instead of just relying on social welfare. So instead of handing out your hand for charity, you should hand out your arm, extend your arm for a tool with which you can work. Let me take the opportunity and thank my colleagues who were very polite and shared their experience. We apologize for the limited time they had for their presentations. However, I hope that you will be able to share further details during informal discussions later on.
Момент. Искам само да кажа, че сега има кафе.
We're now breaking for coffee. We have yet another panel presenting contemporary entrepreneurship business models in the area of social economy. Mr. Kirill Nikolov will be moderating this panel. So we're a little bit delayed, so we will be starting at 4 o'clock. I kindly ask you to be back in the room at 4 p.m.